research shows that one of the key reasons that we face a skills gap in our country and our industry is because young people just don't consider manufacturing to be a viable career path. And they think that way because their perception of modern manufacturing just simply doesn't align with reality. They don't realize it's a high-tech, well-paying, hands-on, and rewarding job. So at the NAM, we're partnering with our member companies to tell the creators' wanted story. And frankly, there are no better spokespeople for our industry than the men and the women who love being manufacturers, who know they are building and making and innovating something that really matters. This really is our moment to change the conversation. Manufacturing, as you know, is in the news, and it's on the minds of voters and elected leaders at all levels of government, unlike any time in our recent history. But all of that attention produces headlines that, well, sometimes miss the mark. On the one hand, you hear arguments like, manufacturing is an industry of the past. Its best days are behind us. On the other hand, you hear some people say, manufacturing is so advanced that it's going to be taken over by robots. There won't be any humans left in manufacturing. I deal with this stuff every day, and I got to tell you, even I'm confused sometimes. Apparently, we're too outdated to survive, and we're so advanced that we're revolutionizing the workplace. As you might guess, I reject both of those arguments. Modern manufacturing, it certainly doesn't look like the past, but we also aren't afraid of the future. You know, all over this town you see signs, JFK 100. President Kennedy's, our 35th president's birthday, 100th birthday is this year. And what he said 54 years ago rings as true today as it did then. He said, change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or the present, are certain to miss the future. Earlier this year, the NAM embarked on our annual State of Manufacturing tour, and we saw the future. Like we do every year, our roadshow took us to shop floors and schools, meeting with everyone from longtime executives to newly certified workers, to students who are just beginning to contemplate their career goals. And this year, we saw an energy and an enthusiasm greater than we've witnessed before. In the wake of an election that has refocused attention on our industry, manufacturing is growing stronger, and it has limitless potential. Manufacturing is increasing output and bringing us revolutionary technologies. Manufacturing is diversifying and transforming for the better. Manufacturing is charting new frontiers and supporting new jobs. It seems almost every day we hear about breakthroughs in autonomous vehicles, promising new medical treatments, and the most brilliant smart technology to date. Manufacturers support more than 18 million American jobs, and across the country, companies are announcing their plans to make new investments in American factories and in creating American jobs. As you just heard from Stephen Gold of MAPI, our sector continues to have the most impressive multiplier effect of any in our economy. And to be precise, for every dollar that's invested in manufacturing, another $1.81 is added to the economy. Meanwhile, we're making great new strides in sustainability and energy efficiency, and the growth of technologies like 3D printing help us deliver greater value to our customers through just-in-time manufacturing. It's kind of like that old Jack in the Box restaurant saying, we don't make it until you order it. Well, that's where we are in manufacturing today. Our future is indeed filled with promise. However, and this is very important as well, it's true that you don't see some of the same factories that you used to, like in my hometown of Chillicothe, Ohio. The landscape is very different. For so many, that is a true source of pain. And we as business leaders Quite frankly, we have an obligation and we have a responsibility to address that head on. If you're a manufacturing worker of many years and your community's facility is closed up, well, it doesn't matter to you if the larger industry is thriving. Your world has just been turned upside down. There is anxiety out there. There are families who are worried. There are men and women who wonder if they even have a place in the modern economy. Well, our job is to show them that yes, they do. There's been a lot of talk about bringing jobs back, especially during and after the presidential campaign. But the story is also about upskilling workers, helping them move up the ladder in a company. It's also about upscaling jobs, making jobs pay more as technology allows them to do more. And it's also about future-proofing jobs, equipping people with the talents and the flexibility to thrive in a modern and continually evolving industry. Today there are more than 350,000 jobs in manufacturing that are unfilled. And over the next decade, according to research by the NAM's Manufacturing Institute and Deloitte, as many as 2 million could go unfilled because we don't have enough people with the right skills. To be sure, there will always be a place for those who do the gratifying, physical, hands-on work, the craftsmen and women and the artisans. A small manufacturer who was actually on our tour from Austin, Texas, calls these Americans our creative working-class heroes. Their pride in creating will always give Made in America special meaning. But they are all part of a broader and more diverse industrial age in the United States. And together, we're going to be able to usher in a new era for American manufacturing. When new technology empowers us to do a job faster and better, well, we can't leave people behind. The structures need to be in place for their jobs and their careers to evolve as the workplace does. With that in mind, though, part of the solution is getting policymaking back on track in our nation's capital. There's only so much that we can do if the larger business environment isn't right, if policymakers aren't getting the policies right. The NAM has crafted a comprehensive agenda that we call Competing to Win. You can get this agenda from our website at nam.org. We created this agenda so that lawmakers have no doubt what manufacturers need to grow and thrive right here in America. Our message is simple. We need a boost to the competitiveness of our sector and of our nation so that we can win at home and in overseas markets. And here are the three big ticket items that need attention right now. Regulatory reform, infrastructure investment, tax reform. On the regulatory front, well, we've already witnessed a sea change under the Trump administration, but of course there's so much more work to do. Now, I'm going to give you a statistic, and I'd ask you to remember this number, or perhaps round up to make it a little easier. A recent study by the National Association of Manufacturers found that manufacturers are directly subject to 297,696 regulations. And that's just at the federal level. The cost of regulatory compliance for most manufacturers is nearly $35,000 per employee per year. Now, that's money that can't be used to invest in new plants and equipment. That's money that can't be used to create jobs here in the United States. Regulatory reform, which to us means making regulation smarter, simpler, and streamlined, is one of the quickest ways to create jobs and give manufacturers the confidence that they need to expand. We know that it's possible to have safe workplaces and environmental stewardship at the same time our economy is experiencing robust growth. I mean, heck, our companies innovate, create, and manufacture the very products to do exactly that. If we can work together from the Department of Labor to the EPA to the SEC and others, we can achieve those dual very important goals. And now on the infrastructure front, the NAM engineered a forward-thinking blueprint to make real progress. We saw last summer that both presidential campaigns were hot on infrastructure investment. So we said, we don't want these good intentions to devolve into the same disappointments of the 2009 stimulus bill, where there were a lot of promises made, but few promises kept when it came to infrastructure investment. So we released an infrastructure plan of our own called Building to Win. It pointed out the big problems, but it also pointed out the great economic opportunities and even the price tag and the pay-fors that were necessary to get the job done. I'm proud to say that the Trump campaign cited our plan favorably when it was laying out its vision for infrastructure last fall, and administration officials have cited it publicly since they took office. We hear public statements from leading Democrats and Republicans about the type of modernization that we're calling for. And that's exciting that we can make progress on this front. Yesterday, in fact, along with the Associated General Contractors, we launched a powerful coalition of business, labor, and infrastructure users to advance this critical cause. You really can't overstate the urgency here. From transportation infrastructure to energy infrastructure, our infrastructure is simply not what a 21st century economic powerhouse needs. Millions of jobs are at stake. Without immediate action on the infrastructure crisis, the United States is going to lose 2.5 million jobs by the year 2025 and more than 5.8 million jobs by the year 2040. From 2016 to 2025, families will lose $3,400 each and every year because of deficient infrastructure. And by 2026, that cost will rise to a staggering $5,100 per family, wasted every single year. Estimates peg the infrastructure funding gap at well over $2 trillion. And that cost only grows with each passing year, as we all know. In addition, we need to make sure that our communications infrastructure, like broadband, it remains state-of-the-art, and that the government doesn't impede its growth or the private sector's ability to continue investing. If we act now, we're going to put America on a stronger foothold. There's no doubt about that. Better able to compete in the global marketplace for at least the next generation. And finally, manufacturers hope to see progress on a target that has proven to be elusive for over 3 decades: comprehensive tax reform. The last major overhaul of the U.S. tax code was in 1986. And think about this. In 1986, there wasn't internet in every home, let alone in every pocket. Fax machines were the hot new technology at 6 pages per minute, per page to transmit. And there were 86 million fewer people in our country. Manufacturers, we've certainly innovated a lot over the last 30 years. The country and the economy have also transformed, but the U.S. tax system, it just hasn't kept pace. As we stood still, other countries raced to update and modernize their own tax codes to steal away our mantle of economic leadership. So to spur job creation here in the United States, business tax reform has to have a few very essential goals. It has to reduce the corporate tax rate to 15%, which is what the president has proposed, with small businesses and pass-throughs at a similar competitive rate. We need a modern territorial international tax system, and we need to strengthen R&D tax incentives and see faster deductions for capital investments. Bold changes will result in trillions of dollars in investment and millions of new jobs for American workers. There is so much potential that we can unlock with tax reform. There's really no excuse for inaction. The only excuse in the past has been partisan gridlock, and the American people are done with that, and so are manufacturers. Manufacturers want to be in the business of empowering Americans to better their lives, so we need policies and leadership that empower us to do exactly that. And I'm in awe of the innovation that's on display at this summit. You're getting an incredible glimpse of the future. The United States, we must continue to lead the way on this front, but that's only possible if we can compete and win in the globalized modern economy. And that's only possible if our leaders get our policies right. It's clear that our industry has undergone great change in recent decades, and the pace of change is not slowing down. If anything, it's only increasing. But one thing never changes. We have always been an industry of dreamers, of makers, of doers. And I can promise you this: we're going to continue to surprise and change the world for the better. Thank you all so much for your attention. And I'm happy to take a couple questions if you have them. Are you all feeling good about what's happening in Washington? There's a Chinese saying, some people say it's a Chinese blessing, and some people say it's a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. I think we are. There's no question about that. But the key is that we need to stay focused on the policies that will make sure that we are competitive in the future. Tax reform, infrastructure investment, and regulatory reform. And I'd ask all of you to be foot soldiers for us in making sure that these things get done in Washington, that we don't give anyone an excuse for inaction, that there are no distractions from our policy agenda. There will be other things going on, to be sure, but we want to make sure that those things get done. And you all can help us spread the word and be part of our manufacturing army. Yes?
Thank you so much for that. I have a few friends now who are becoming politically active and starting to run for Congress, and some of them national, but also some of them local or kind of state. And they're curious to know how they can get more information on specifically manufacturing policy and what they should be.
Right here. They can go to our website, nam.org. We're an organization that's part think tank and part advocacy organization. We have literally some of the finest minds in Washington that are working on policies that make us competitive. You've also heard from Deborah Wynn-Smith already, and her organization provides a lot of the same info, and so does Stephen Gold at MAPI. There's a great amount of information that they can get simply by going onto the web. From our vantage point, our information is very much advocacy focused. So we are not a charitable organization. We are a membership organization. So we can get out there and convince members of Congress to do the right thing, and you'll see a lot of that information in there. They can also text. So can all of you. To the number 52886, the word friends, and that will connect you with our manufacturing army. You will get very few, not a lot, of updates on key issues that are coming up before Congress. That number is 52886. Just text the word friends. Yes.
Yeah. My question is, we all see now these technologies are coming and manufacturing gets more automated. We are talking about this robotics and artificial intelligence, all these kind of technologies which are bringing manufacturing to the new level of efficiency and productivity while in fact eliminating humans out of the process. So how do you see manufacturing continuing to create jobs while these changes are happening?
Yeah, you've heard it a few times already today. Modern manufacturing simply means that the jobs of the future are different. There are not fewer jobs. We've created 1 million jobs since the end of the Great Recession in manufacturing. But I can tell you this, those 1 million jobs are very, very different than the jobs of 5 years, 10 years ago. There is automation. There is artificial intelligence. There is technology that is now infused into manufacturing processes to make us, to your point, more efficient, more productive. Many times those robotics or that automation is making a job easier, safer for the manufacturing workforce, but ultimately somebody has to invent, design, build, maintain those robotics, that artificial intelligence. So the jobs in manufacturing are just simply different. That's why we need to focus on STEM education in the early years. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And I think about, I've looked at their curriculum, which I worked for the governor of Virginia at the time that curriculum was being developed. And now I'm kind of hitting myself in the head saying, why didn't we focus more on science and technology, engineering and mathematics? We have an obligation to do that nationwide. It's a conversation we're having from the NAM with this Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Labor. And I think we have some great opportunities to change course over time, but that's a 25-year plan. So as parents, we need to encourage our young people to focus on those STEM skills. We need to give them exposure to what modern manufacturing is all about, so that they have an understanding of what incredible career opportunities exist. Some of those career opportunities are available after high school. Some of them take a few years of technical training or perhaps some course training at a community college. Some do require a 4-year degree. But the jobs in modern manufacturing, and my grandfather was in manufacturing, the hard physical labor that he did in the 1930s and 40s and 50s, those types of jobs, to your point, they're not as plentiful as they once were. But the jobs of the future are the jobs that require a different set of thinking and focus. So I'm actually excited about these new jobs. As I said, 2 million jobs are going to go unfilled by the year 2025. So we're not suffering from a lack of manufacturing jobs. We're suffering from a lack of individuals who can actually fill those jobs. Time for one more quick one. I don't want to miss this side of the room. I think we got it right here.
Hi, my name is Chris Matthews. I'm with Axios. You're advocating cutting the corporate tax rate to 50%.
You're with Axios?
Yes.
Okay, can I just tell you I love that publication?
Wonderful.
Like I cannot start my day without reading it. So you can, and Mike Allen
here should also.
Mike Allen's been a buddy of mine since the 1990s.
Yeah.
So have to read it.
You're talking about cutting the corporate tax rate to 15%. That's something that costs a ton of money, hundreds of billions of dollars over a 10-year window. At the same time, at this conference, we're talking about all the different things that we need to do to prepare the workforce for tomorrow. So in order to pay for that, you either have to issue more debt, cut spending, probably on Social Security and Medicare, and or raise taxes on another segment of the economy. So how do you, if you're advocating for that, shouldn't you be advocating for how we pay for it?
So you know what? I respect that question greatly, and I understand why you ask it. However, I will say I think that question is a very typically Washington question, and here's why. That has been our focus for so many years. It's like, okay, well, all the beans have to add up to the same number of beans, and I don't agree with that. We have to ask ourselves, what is the missed opportunity? The missed opportunity, if we don't jumpstart our economy right now, our country will simply not exist as it has during our lifetimes. We will not have the same economic opportunities. We will not have the same quality of life. We will not continue to grow and expand and increase that quality of life. It'll start to decrease. And that is our challenge. And that is where we have to look at what our lost opportunities are. We're going to lose those opportunities if we do not reduce the cost of doing business. It's that simple. We're going to lose opportunities to other countries who are getting smart about attracting our businesses to their shores. Taxes, regulation, somewhere between 12 and 24%. I've seen studies say between 12 and 24% a cost premium to manufacture in our country because of those two things. That's not even including the cost of labor, which we don't even look at. You add on infrastructure and the crumbling infrastructure that we have in this country and the cost to deliver our goods to services, the extra cost of that, we just aren't keeping up. That is absolutely unacceptable for a country that has led the way for the last 100 years. I'm not willing to accept that. Now, to your point, how do you balance the budget? I get that. I understand it. I'm not an economist. I can't tell you what growth is going to lead to and how that's going to increase tax revenue. But I think at a gut level, you've got to assume that if you unleash capital and you incentivize investment and you incentivize job creation, you're going to have more businesses and more individuals paying taxes. And that's what we want. But more importantly than that, we want people to experience the dignity of work. There are people all over this country, and I refuse to call my home state part of the Rust Belt. I call it the heartland of America. But I will tell you this, there are people in my home state and all around the surrounding areas that are losing hope and saying, I can't be a part of the greatness of this country anymore because they see their jobs going away. Those jobs are going away because of what we've done to ourselves through our policy choices or in many cases, lack of action. So I appreciate the question. I think it's an important one. I think the federal debt is an incredibly important issue to resolve, but we better get our house in order or there's not going to be any house. I think it's that simple. Thank you all so much. I look forward to talking to you on the next panel.